afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Coptic Youth Radio Hour in association with CYC Tuned In, your host, Mark Risk. And on the program today, we've got Peter making his debut.
Hello.
Thanks, Pete, for coming in. We also got Matt, the return of Matt. Long-time listeners would recognise his voice. We were doing the program for like about a year or so.
A year and a bit together, yeah. Long time,
had some good memories, good times in the old Fitzroy studio.
Oh, bad.
You've got the beard now and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the SAC choir as well. Just wanted me to also mention that on air. So if you were at the Pope's visit, you would have seen Matt along with all the other guys, part of the choir. And we've also got Marina. Thanks for coming in as well. On the program today, we've got two topics. We're going to discuss about addiction and mental illness, and so stay tuned for that. Matt, I hear you've got some stories you can share because you were part of the SAC choir.
SAC choir is well known as St. Athanasius College choir. We are a team which we meet regularly. And, we've been preparing for the Pope's visit like St. Paul's Youth, and I just want to commend St. Paul's Youth. They did an amazing job. But we were one of the teams that we were preparing for the Pope's visit, and the majority of the events we were there. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I know speaking from, all of us, I think we all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We all loved having His Holiness with us, and, as we call him Baba, which means father. Him being there, bringing his apostolic blessings, or the blessings of St. Mark, from all the way from Alexandria in Cairo in Egypt to Melbourne. And it was his first visit, as everyone know, and I think we all enjoyed it. I know I did, Michael, what you guys did. Yeah.
Marina, which events did you go to? What did you enjoy?
I went to the youth meeting, the Nuns Monastery, and St. Paul's Cathedral. Yeah.
How was the monastery, the Nuns Monastery? Was there a lot of people there?
Not too many people, So it was good. Like, we got to see him close.
Yeah. Did you get a selfie? Like everyone?
I didn't get a selfie.
Let's not discuss that.
Pete, which events did you go to?
Yeah, I attended St. Paul's Cathedral on the Saturday and the youth meeting on Monday.
Did you get a selfie or not?
No, I was too far back.
So you weren't like the others. You could see the others.
I could see the others, but no,
they were forced their way in there.
Yeah, no.
It's beautiful because what I saw, from the private sort of end was it was like a father greeting his children, and to be honest, he's an amazing person to be in charge of the entire Coptic community and yet still have that personal touch like Pope Shenouda and Baba Kyrillos did, like I said, I could tell you many stories. I could tell you many.
It was such a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
And I hope all our listeners and viewers, they attended and got to receive the blessing of seeing His Holiness. And something else like the coverage that was given.
It was amazing.
It was unbelievable. The guy Bassem and all the guys from the Diocese of Melbourne.
With Zach, with social media and Facebook, Instagram, the works.
Yeah.
Live stream on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, it was such an amazing...
Funny story behind that. As a SAC choir, I remember, we'd finish an event and then, half of us would go home, we'd go straight onto YouTube and then we'd listen to the event and we'd start critiquing ourselves. Or even in some situations, as soon as the event's finished, we're all on our phones, we're like, we did this wrong, we did that wrong, just trying to make that perfect, as I've said, the SAC choir, we don't make it perfect for ourselves, we make it perfect for you guys. It's not for the glory of ourselves, it's the glorify God, and it's for you guys.
It was really amazing, and especially the auto unveiling. There was a lot of guest speakers there, and also at the gala dinner, Bill Shorten was there. He made a speech.
Peter Khalil.
Peter Khalil was there. Everyone was there pretty much, and it was a really good time. And as I said,
if I can just say, now that the Pope is gone, it doesn't mean though we take a break. I think if anything, now that the Pope's gone, let's beef our khidmah up and let's beef our service up and beef our spirituality up to the next level. He gave us an opportunity to say, to start off with a clean base with His Holiness. And now let's take it to the next level and be like, let's beef up our spirituality, let's beef up our readings and let's all try, many of us, to enroll in the St. Athanasius Theological College. I think we'd all enjoy it. I know I am at the moment, and even if it's just auditing one subject a semester, if we can all take that opportunity to enroll in SAC.
Especially now that it's in Autotel.
Yeah, exactly.
When
it's going to be in Portal, God willing, it's going to be an opportunity where it's very close. We can all go. So please take the opportunity to enroll. I met at the SAC event on the Tuesday night a Syrian deacon who is going to be ordained to the priesthood either this year or next year, and he's enrolled in SAC. I'm saying, if he can enroll, and he's one from his entire congregation, how much more will be flourishing if all of us just audited one subject, in our busy lives.
So yes, make sure to stay tuned. Also, if you haven't done so already, like our Facebook page, 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ Coptic Youth. And also we're on SoundCloud, Coptic Youth Radio, and iTunes. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. And stay tuned. And we're back here on Coptic Youth Radio Hour, joined with Pete, Matt, and Marina. For our topic today, we wanted to discuss addiction and what can we classify as an addiction, how can you get over an addiction, and sort of we'll discuss on some ways of recovering, and just really defining what is an addiction in sort of within a church concept. So one of the biggest sort of addictions that we have is alcohol. Alcohol's an addiction where if you don't monitor it, if you take too much, it becomes an addiction. Now, the question is, do we stop it completely? Or is there something as in drinking in moderation? What do you guys think? What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, look, I think it's quite a difficult question. You don't want to tell people you can't drink at all, because I guess we live in a society where that might not be socially acceptable. But at the same time, you need to be able to have a good balance in terms of how much you're consuming, and also making sure that you are still able to act in a way that reflects your personality and your faith as well.
So if you're at at a social event, for example, you don't want to be the one that's going to be like, I'm just going to stick to water kind of thing. Then people are going to start looking at you.
I think
like,
so. Because
who's this righteous human being that's trying to be all good and stuff? What would you sort of do in that situation?
I think an addiction is like if you put something as like number one in your life, like if it's like becomes your God and your idol. So like it says in James chapter 4 verse 7, submit yourselves to God, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So like any addiction is from the devil, and if the addiction is becoming your idol, then that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So it's in pretty much in moderation. So don't let it consume you. And it's everyone's has their own opinion on it. Like you can be of the mindset of, no, I'm not going to put myself in that situation at all. And why would I want to jeopardize my relationship with God by even entertaining the idea of drinking alcohol, even if it's one drink? That might be one person. Another person might be like, no, I think it's socially acceptable. If you can do it in moderation, but it doesn't consume you. What do you think?
It depends really on the situation. Like, you know, I think in most cases now we're in a situation where we're going out with friends, we're going to parties, we're going to work functions, and we're drinking, you know, and everyone's drinking. And, you know, like, I hate to be old-fashioned, but, you know, I remember as a kid we always got taught, what would Jesus do, you know, WWGD.
We still get told
You know?
that now.
I'm not sure if it's used in Sunday school these days or not, but you know, in a situation like this, and let's for the record, Jesus drank. Jesus did drink. You know, the Bible clearly states that when he went to the Cana of Galilee, wedding of Cana of Galilee, he did have a drink.
No, I don't think he drank, but he
changed
water into wine for the people for the wedding. It doesn't say if he partook of it or not.
The Jewish tradition, anyway. But I'm saying, like the situation was Jesus when he was there. You know, there was wine and there was alcohol. You know, and let's look. I want to go back to the Jewish tradition behind it, because the Judeo-Christian thing, it's really what we're looking at. In that the Jewish tradition was, you drank to celebrate. Okay, you didn't drink for the sake of drinking. You know, like it's like I've noticed, like some people, you know, say that like after work, let's go for a cold one. You know, whereas the Jewish tradition behind it was you drank to celebrate. You know, in the Friday meal or the Sabbath meal, they drank to celebrate. It's a Friday, it's a holiday. You know, at every major event, they drank, and they drank in a way that was glorifying God. And I think we've got to remember that, in that, when we drink, we're not because we want to get drunk, but I think in all things we have to glorify God. In all things we have to be of peace, you know? And so if my drinking is going to lead to me doing something really bad, well, that's not glorifying God. But if my drinking is going to lead me to say, like, you know, God, thank you very much, you know, I'm celebrating, you know, then it means it's a positive aspect. I want to know, what do you guys think on this?
There's other types of addictions, like say for example weed or marijuana. That has become very rampant, and it's becoming more socially acceptable, and that's also an addiction. But then again, some people might look at it and say this is just natural, it's not harming anyone. And
can I just stop you there for a minute? We've got to classify what's natural and what's not natural. Naturality, it was an addiction. As far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong, addiction is something that's unnatural, okay? And these all drugs, you're talking about marijuana and all this sort of stuff, okay? You never, look, as far as I'm aware, again, you never had the addiction that we have now. You know, you could say back in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, they had this sort of stuff. But if you see it nowadays, I'm sorry to say this, from what I've been doing recently, I found that many people are on drugs. Many people are on drugs. And not from our community. I'm not saying our community we're on drugs or anything, but I'm saying in the workforce, many people are on drugs. You know?
But is that an addiction?
Of course it is an addiction.
Yeah. You know? Well, that's what we're trying to talk. Like,
you know, but you see, you said earlier, what's natural, what's not natural. Natural. You're saying an addiction is natural. No, it's not.
No. I didn't say addiction's natural. I'm saying marijuana leaf is natural. It's coming from a plant, so that's why it's a natural source of a drug. That's what I was referring to. Now, people might look at that and say this is normal. Like, it's how can something like that not be an addiction or like be a sin? Because we look at it in our church and we say, no, you shouldn't be doing that because it causes you to do things. Yeah.
I was just going to say, quite often when people do drink, they're unable to control their words, and it's often been said that a drunk person's words are a sober man's thoughts. So it's often regarded as when one person has been consuming too much alcohol, basically they're no longer able to control, their choice of words, and then they're likely to fall into some form of sin. So whether by their actions or their words, they're likely to say something that they might regret.
Yeah, well, your true self. Or your inner thoughts.
Your inner thoughts come out.
They sort of come out when you're in that vulnerable state.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Is that really a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think we know it's not a good thing, but I just thought I'd mention that quote.
So that's addiction is, like in our church now. There's a few Bible verses we can mention Pete, you had one. You wanna? I think there's a lot that is said in the Bible, and Jesus talks about it, and he tells us that we can overcome it.
Yes, we do have one here actually, which is in the 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And what I've got here is verse 13, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted but beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it.
So that's a very famous verse, that one. God will never give us something that we can't handle or we can't cope. So
yeah, but I think we also, we have got a personal responsibility not to put ourselves in
that position,
as well, so that we're not trying to test God at the same time. So it's not like, you're having someone becoming an addict and then just saying,
it's God's
I
fault.
should be able to handle it, or why can't I bear it? So at the same time, there's obviously personal responsibility as well.
Matt, do you have...
Look, I have the verse, but it's... I don't think it's... my opinion about it is it's sort of telling us something that we already know. And it says in John 16:33, I've told you these things that you may have peace. In the world you will have trouble, but take heed. Well, tribulation is the proper terminology. But take heed, I have overcome the world. I think it's applicable these days because I think, from what I've read and what I've looked at, a lot of people are taking drugs to get away from the anguish, to get away from the sorrow or the situation, and we're forgetting that Christ went through it all. Okay, and he didn't have any drugs. He just said no.
But as a church, isn't there other means of trying to relieve ourselves from the stresses of the world and not having to resort to drugs?
This is one thing.
Alcohol?
This is one thing my mentor, Father David, always said. He goes, every 6 months, try and go for a week or 2 weeks or a weekend retreat in a monastery where you turn off your phone, you turn off your iPads, you turn off your technology and just focus on God. And now that we're very blessed to have not just a monastery, we have a nunnery for our blessed women of the diocese. I feel that we are encouraged to take regular retreats, And what's wrong with, for example, one of us going one weekend a month and saying, at work, I don't want to talk to you people, I'm away, khalas, I'm going to go for a weekend, go spend it at the monastery, take maybe 2 or 3 spiritual books, take my Bible, take my
That's
Baya.
a fantastic idea. And I think the recent renovations at St. Anthony's Monastery...
Exactly.
It's been really good.
Exactly.
And I think hopefully more and more...
And the nunnery, if you've seen the nunnery, like I was there last week, it's an amazing piece and it's very quiet and tranquil. You can just focus on meditation and prayer and understanding. If you do that once every 6 months, for example, whether it be a week or a weekend, honestly, I personally try and do it. And it takes a lot of effort, but the rewarding is beautiful. And I remember I only started doing this 4 years ago. It was when my mentor just got ordained, and I found I spent 2 weeks in the monastery. I didn't want to leave. Now I'm not saying everyone's going to be like me, but I'm saying, but if you take that weekend where you sneak off and say, I'm going to go to the monastery, I'm going to spend the weekend. You prearrange with your confession father. You tell Abuna, look, I'm going to go to the monastery. Give me some books to recommend to read. Give me some spiritual exercises, and let me take a weekend away. I kid you not. On Monday when you go back to work, you'll be like, no, I feel like a different person.
Yeah. Incorporate the Bible into your daily readings. Attend youth meetings. And I think all of these will help get over your addiction. Let us know what you guys think in the comments page, on our Facebook page. Let us know what you guys think. Stay tuned. Back here on Coptic Youth Radio Hour. For our second topic, we wanted to discuss mental health. It's a bit of a unspoken sort of issue. It's not like doesn't garner a lot of emphasis in our church. I personally don't think so. and I think it's a really important topic, and it's something we need to be more aware of. And what are some ways of sort of trying to address it? Because you don't want to marginalize people and make them point the finger at them and say, yeah, you have mental issues or anything like that. But you just want to sort of be a bit sensitive, be a bit cautious to people who might have mental health issues. I personally think one good way of addressing it is the Olympics, the Paralympic Games. I think they do a really good job of having that team harmony, and it gives a platform for people who have disability or mental health issues, that platform of succeeding and doing something great on a big stage. What do you guys think, Matt?
I think as we are Orthodox Christians, we've got to remember what the Bible says. And these days, I think we have looked at situations and we've taken them out of we've taken them badly. As a culture, we look at mental illnesses and we say, no, you're just a little bit nuts. You know, like we see going to a psychologist as thinking, Magnun, or he's crazy, you know. Whereas these days, it's actually quite common of people going to a psychologist. I know I go to a psychologist, you know, and I've been going to a psychologist for years. And I think that our community itself needs to realize that going to a psychologist doesn't mean you're nuts. It actually, going to a psychologist is like going to your confession father. You know, your confession father helps you with spiritual. Well, this is another person. You're not calling the psychologist a confession father, nothing, but this is a person who you see regularly, and he or she is helping you with worldly issues. You know, like I might have a high anxiety at work. You know, well, my psychologist, for example, can help me with that. My psychologist can help me with going through depression. You know, having said that, I probably want to hear what Marina says because you know, a girl. I don't know much about girls going through this sort of stuff.
I think a lot of people like with mental health issues just want to be listened to. So like we can just offer an ear to listen. Like we may not have all the answers, but like if we're just listening to them, I think that's a great help. Like they'll feel that there's someone there for them, and yeah. Yeah,
that's a really good point. Having an ear to someone who wants to be heard or is going through a tough time, it's always good to hear them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about listening to people. I think maybe you know, there are other things we can do to help, things like regular exercise, eating healthy. You know, those sorts of things are also not to be underestimated. There's obviously a lot of science that goes into mood and things like that. So perhaps we can encourage you know, people in our community. That you know, you still need to, you know, do your bit in terms of exercise and eating habits and things like that.
So you think like physical activity is
what do you guys reckon?
As a possible way?
Yeah, I think definitely. Definitely there's a strong relationship between exercise and things like anxiety and depression and things like that. So there's definitely a big link there, and there is a lot of evidence to suggest that.
It gives you a strong sense of camaraderie between the group, the social group, and it's like everyone's sort of together.
Right. And even things like social sport, you know, like being part of a team, you know, regardless of what sport you like to play, it's a good idea. Things maybe we should be encouraging. I don't think we necessarily encourage sport too much. Like you don't often hear that in the community, but especially after you've sort of finished, you know, school, you don't hear too much about sport. But
it's all about education.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about going for the degree.
That's it.
Exactly.
I just want to make a slight point here. I think we need to be careful. Okay. When you're talking about sports, you're talking about group sports and stuff. I think in situations like this, when you have a person on the autism spectrum, or you have a person who has got a different sort of mental illness, their anxiety might be like getting with people. Their anxiety, they're like, like if they say one thing out of line, half of us are going to take it and be like, he said this and this and this. I think we as a community, I'm not saying the Coptic community, I'm saying all Orthodox, whether Greek, Russian, you name it. We as a community need to be more open and be more understanding that if they say something out of context and you take it out of context, that will hurt them more than if they say something in context and you don't like it. It's like saying, all right, well, Kevin Rudd, for example, said this, okay, and you're going to go to my mum, Kevin Rudd said this and this and this, and you take it completely out of context. For a person with high anxiety or a mental illness, his parents might come up to him, what did you say? Because I heard a rumor about this and this and this, that you said this, I think we're too worried about the gossip these days, and I think it hurts people with mental illness. And I think it's one of the main reasons why people with mental illnesses don't usually are very open with their mental illness across the church, because they're worried about the gossip.
That's so true. I think people are less likely to seek help as well because they'll feel embarrassed and because they've got a mental illness if they feel like they're being judged by other people. So if we're more open and more accepting of others, and if we're more willing to speak up and say, yeah, I have a mental illness, then other people more likely be.
And I think the time is where, according to a statistic I read, and I'm trying to remember it, was that apparently 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 in every population is going to have some sort of mental illness. I think if we don't, as an Orthodox world, if we don't get into the times, you're going to lose these people. Now, I'm going to be very open here. I'm autistic, for the record. I'm autistic, and I'm proud of it, and I say it's a gift from God. Having said that, I dealt with a lot of prejudice from it, and I went through the highs and lows of it, And so understanding what a person who's autistic goes through, you don't get. Not many people get. Unless you're like a psychologist or you're a person who studied it, you really don't get it. And it's very hard to get it, Just one word to that autistic person and they can never come back to church, And I think that's what kills us, is that we as deacons or we as congregation members will say that one word to that autistic person and then you'll never see them again. And then the parents will complain, go to a board, why is my son going to church? My son's meant to be going to church. What's wrong with my son? And then they're like, okay, the priest will come up to the person, why aren't you going to church? They're like, for land, or this guy said that. Oh, okay, he doesn't understand. And we're, as autistic people, we're expected to be like, you got to put up with everyone else, they don't get it, this and that. But how much do I as an autism person, put up with? How much do we as autistic people, for example, put up with? Because we get told all the time, your autism, you haven't got autism, Egyptian mentality, you haven't got autism, there's something wrong here, But the truth be told, it's actually the opposite. They don't get it. And, and the gossip.
Because I think our sort of the older generation, our older community maybe isn't really educated well enough on tackling issues like this. Whereas we as youth in the church now, we're more susceptible to these things. We can see it, and it's not like something that's really far. It's we see that, and how do we understand it? How do we react to it? How do we make sure that people like yourself and everyone else in the church is welcome and isn't being singled out? That's the biggest thing in our church at the moment. That's what we have to focus on.
And the beauty thing about it is now we're very blessed to have a Portal Tower. If you haven't seen a Portal Tower, once it's open properly, go see it. We have a hub in the city. Not many churches have a hub in the city. If we don't, I'm being honest here, and it's not Abuna, it's not no one, it's not His Grace, it's all of us. Is we as a youth group don't be like, all right, in this church, we're going to throw out the old cliches of the Egyptian community or of the culture where we don't gossip, or try not to gossip, we don't put anyone down, and we don't prejudice. If we can throw all that out, we can say, okay, here's a church where we have established where everyone is welcome, whether you're mental illness, whether you don't, or whatever. If we can do that, then our church will grow and grow and grow. And I kid you not, it will grow. And I will stake my reputation on it. It will grow if we just throw out these old ideas of prejudice and gossip. And as Marina was saying, gossip kills. And it in some cases, it leads to people committing suicide. I've heard stories about people who have had mental illnesses. They've heard gossip from it and about themselves, and they've gone to commit suicide.
But I think we shouldn't just maybe focus on Ep Ora and making that special. I think it should be every single church should have that same mentality. Whether Ep Ora Tower, the church there, is the leader of that movement, that's perfect and fine. But I think every church should.
I think Ep Ora is a blank canvas. It's a blank canvas, and therefore we as a youth have got an opportunity to say, you know what, our old generation is not putting us down there. You know, and if we can educate the older generation, that's great. But if we have, for example, we've got this blank canvas of water, if we can do it right and properly, I don't know, it takes a lot of work, trust me. If we can do it properly, we can turn it into a church, or not turn it into a church, but make it in a way where people like myself who've got mental illness can be welcomed at any time, you know. I remember once, I'm going to tell this story, when we first bought the towers before we demolished, I used to have a lot of autistic friends, and I said to them, look, this is a city church, this is your home. Don't ever think about if you've got a problem, come to the church. And I never said, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not here to do anything, but I'm going to be cleaning on this day, for example. You're more than welcome to come clean with me. You know, of course, don't go near the altar, don't go anywhere holy. And then at the end, I'll supply you food and we can have a chat. I remember one day I actually got 20 people, autistic people, that came up. And, you know, it was a Thursday and I had a day off, so I'm like, I've got to go clean the church, do some work in there. So I sent a message out to them on private messenger, look, I'm at church today, you're more than welcome to come clean. 20 rocked up. I kid you not, the three levels in the second building and the church, and we got cleaned in 4 hours, all of it. And I said to them, all right, give me 10 minutes, we'll go get some pizzas, we'll go get something to eat. We all went to get something, and we came out and we chat for another 2 hours. And I wasn't preaching Christ. I wasn't saying you got to convert. I just said, look, I'm cleaning, okay? Come, clean with me, and let's have a chat. You know, and I wasn't saying you're bad, I'm bad, this and that. I was saying, no, this is where it's free, it's open, you can clean, you can do whatever you want, you know?
That's you showed your Christianity by actions. You didn't have to use any words.
Exactly.
And that speaks louder than any words.
Exactly.
It is a big issue in our church, and I think once a year at the diocese we have this mental health course, and hopefully that continues. I think it's run by Abuna Michael and a few of the other bishops, and I think Ambassadorial as well. So I think we are tackling it as a church. It is something sort of new kind of thing, and we're trying to understand it more. And I think we're sort of progressing as a church. Let us know what you guys think, Facebook page or in the comment section below. And that's all the time we have for you guys. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Pete, for coming in. Thanks, Matt, for coming in. Always a pleasure to see you again, Matt.
Look forward to seeing you more often.
Thanks, Marina, for coming in.
Thanks.
As always, you can listen to this program again on our SoundCloud account, Coptic Youth Radio. Like our Facebook page if you haven't done so, 92.3 FM through Triple Z, Coptic Youth Radio. And we're also on iTunes, Coptic Youth Program. That's it from us here in the 3 Triple Z studios in Melbourne. Stay tuned for the following program and see you guys in the next tuned in episode.